Okay, so this is going to be a quick introduction to the heart and to understand the sections of the heart. So here, this space around here, we have what's called the left atrium. Okay, so that space in there is all this space in here is the left atrium, and on the other side we have exactly the same. Okay, two top chambers, one on the left side, one on the right side, and that is the right atrium, that space in there. Okay, the next thing to know is that actually the heart is pretty much made up into four sections or four chambers. So you have your atriums, your two top chambers, left and right, but you also have your two bottom chambers, which are your ventricles. So excuse my drawing, but this is a ventricle, this V-shaped thing here, and that would be your right ventricle. Okay, so your right ventricle is this one here, and your left ventricle would be here. This is your left ventricle. Okay, and we'll go around. Yeah, so that's the first thing to understand. Is you've got your four chambers. The top chambers are your atriums, and your bottom chambers are your ventricles. Now, the next thing to look at is our valves. Okay, so I'll do them in a different colour. Let's do them in green just to make them stand out. So on the left-hand side, we have the valve that sits between your left atrium and your left ventricle, and you can see this is a valve, these type of pincery-like things, and we'll learn about valves a bit later on, but this one is known as your bicuspid or mitral valve. Okay, it's found on the left-hand side, and we also have on exactly almost identical, but on the right-hand side, so the valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle, which is here. Again, we can see these pincery-like shapes. This is known as your tricuspid. Now, a good way of being able to identify it being on the right is it has an R in it, makes it tricuspid. Okay, so that is your tricuspid valve. Now, we've got two other valves, and I'll show you those now. So on our left-hand side, we have, you can again see these pincery shaped things here. Okay, and this would be known as our aortic valve. It's the valve that allows blood to come, once the ventricle contracts, to force the blood up and out of the ventricle and into the aorta, hence the reason the name aortic valve. And we've also got a valve on the right hand side here at the top, and again what happens is the ventricle forces blood and shoots it up out of here, and that is known as your pulmonary valve. Pulmonary valve. Okay. Now, we'll have a look at some of the major vessels leaving or connecting to the heart. So we'll start with these. So the left pulmonary vein. Okay. So the pulmonary vein here is both of these two here. Okay. What they do is these pulmonary veins, they're connected to the lungs, and they carry oxygenated blood to the left atrium. Okay, but so does the pulmonary vein to the right lung. So both these pulmonary veins carry blood to this left atrium. These pulmonary veins, what you can't see behind this heart, is they connect around the back here, and these go in here, and they feed this chamber, this atrium, with oxygenated blood. Okay, and they are the pulmonary veins. They come from the lungs and they feed oxygenated blood into this area. Then we need to understand that actually when blood leaves this left side, okay, so blood comes in here, we can draw a little arrow in a minute, but blood comes in here. Let's change our colour. go red, so blood comes in here. Arrow. These valves open up, it allows it to fill in this bottom chamber here, and what happens is bottom chamber contracts and forces blood up out of here. Okay. Now, when blood leaves here, it goes up into this part here, which is known as our aorta. Okay, so this looks like a glove, is known as our aorta, this word up here. Okay, it splits into three, and that is our aorta, our largest artery in the body. Okay, so once it goes to the aorta, that takes it off to the body cells, and the body cells use up the oxygen. But what brings it back is what we call our vena cava. Now you have two vena cavas, and the reason why is because you have an inferior vena cava, which is bringing blood back. Inferior vena cava, which is this here. Okay, this is bringing blood back from the lower part of the body, and you have a superior vena cava, which is bringing blood back to the heart from the upper body. Now, both vena cavas feed this space here, which is our right atrium. So both vena cavas bring blood back to the right atrium. One from the lower part of the body, so our legs, and one from the upper part of our body, which is a superior vena cava. Finally, we've got our pulmonary arteries, and we've got a pulmonary artery here and a pulmonary artery here. So this pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood back to the lungs, okay, and this pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood back to the right lung. All right, so the next thing we need to establish is which is oxygenated and which is deoxygenated in terms of the side. So this side here is heavily oxygenated, okay, and this side of the heart is heavily deoxygenated. So you should be able to show that on your diagram. The one thing that we haven't shown is that actually you can see that there's two separate sides to the heart, and it's important to understand that this dividing wall here is otherwise known as your septum, and it might be worth septum labeling that up on your diagram. Okay, it might also be worth just drawing those arrows in like I did earlier to show that blood comes down here and shoots out of here. Okay, and blood comes in here, comes down here, contracts, and is forced out of here. Okay, just to indicate where blood flows around the heart. So hopefully your diagram is now labelled up with all these parts, and you've drawn in and you've shown which is oxygenated and which is deoxygenated, and you've got all the key labels on there.